Welcome to John's Tarot. Welcome to you from wherever you may be. Hey, if you would like me to mention you on John's Tarot, send me an email, send me a note, and just with your location on it, and I'll mention you. It's kind of fun. We're starting a little bit of a community, and people from all over the world tend to listen to this. Not a lot of people, very few. I wish a lot were, but as the community grows, it'll be great. I'd like you to be part of the community. And if you would like to submit ideas or tell me about your journey on transformation or any of the other topics I talk about, I'd be glad to hear it. I'd be really interested to hear it, in fact. So today is episode 2 on my series of transformation. And that's what I'm going to call it. It is a series on transformation because that's what it's been for me. It hasn't been just behavior modification. It was a transformation of a person I used to be into the person I am today. And it was a journey of discovery along the way. And if you choose to take this on, I've given you some guides. The Soul Awakening, and a lot of my tarot series is about transformation and awakening and learning who you truly are and doing it on your own terms, and then offering you some tools to do it with. So let me move over to my page for today. Whoa, karma. That's where we're going to start. So this one happened to me. But my first year was about learning. It was about learning the structure and how to live within that structure. And this was more about who am I learning to become as I did this one. And who am I becoming? And as you go, who am I becoming? And I went through several different things, karma being one of it, education, trial and error. So just because you've decided to change, and then say you get a year under your belt and you're doing pretty well, karma doesn't stop. I had led a pretty negative life. I had a lot of consequences for me to deal with. And those things kept on revealing themselves. Now, a lot of people will tend to go out and get really discouraged when those things start happening, because you hear in those meetings, oh, my life is great. It's never been so good. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, my higher power does everything for me. And for me, it wasn't that way. I had instant karma, and I certainly had long-term karma. The long-term karma was instant karma was easier for me to deal with. I make a mistake, the universe brings it to my attention, I change my behavior. Now that in itself is a very valuable tool for transformation. If you could learn about your instant karma, I make a mistake, the universe brings it to my attention, I make the correction, and then you move on. I remember I used to when I was drinking and using, I would get the same situation that would reappear repeatedly until I learned the lesson. And that once I finally got sober, those incidents didn't go on for as long. I make a mistake, it was brought to my attention, I altered my behavior, and then I went on to the next lesson. The things didn't repeat. The long-term karma was a little bit more difficult to deal with, a little bit more. I had an understanding that the things that were happening to me, and it was just like one thing after the next. It was the DMV. It was my old college work. It was my old. I'm going to say criminal record, but I was never a felon. But I was just a ne'er do well. Criminal record. My old behavior, my old ways of thinking, constantly came up, and I had to deal with these things one step at a time before I could move on and do the things that I wanted to do. And I wanted to do some education. So rather than when these things come up in this kind of mid recovery area, it's not really an indication you're doing anything wrong. It's just an indication that the universe is working things out. And I understood it due to my Buddhist orientation, that these things were long-term karma. And all I had to do was, you do what you can to straighten them out, and then you wait. And you get that one straightened out, and and none of it was life-threatening for me. At one point it was. That's a story for another day. It was always just stuff I had to clean up, life stuff I had to clean up. And after I cleaned it up, it would be calm for a while. And then I would try to move forward again in my life and something else would come up. And this went on for me for a good 5 years. And I want to tell you, it's not discouraged. Don't be discouraged if that happens to you. It's just telling you that karma is getting cleaned up. This is long-term karma, and it manifests in different ways. There's I did a lot of things out there I shouldn't have been doing, and it just manifested in different ways, and it had to be cleaned up. Sometimes you can't piece it together, but just know this had to do with your past behavior, and it has to be cleaned up. So you get it cleaned up. Some people run into it with, in a lot of different ways. If you're having trouble with long-term karma hitting you, send me an email and I'll see if I can help you with a little advice on what I did. And then there was education. So I had an opportunity to do education. Really, I was a fairly uneducated individual. I had dropped out of high school. I got a GED, but I hadn't done anything beyond that. I'd been a laborer working as a house painter, and I wanted to do better. I wanted to do something better. I wanted to do something better with my life. So I just went to do education, and I got that first. I had a community college here in California. They have a wonderful community college system, and it gave me the opportunity to do education and then move on a different area. My first degree was in the human services, and I had got a certificate in drug and alcohol studies. I thought I'd go out and be a drug and alcohol counselor and save the world. Well, that's not the way it worked out. What happened was I got this associate's degree, and then I got a job in mental health. I was working at a mental health hospital, and initially I was what they call like a patient care technician type of person, and then I was the unit secretary. But what occurred to me was that I had moved out of doing labor jobs. I'm in semi-professional positions, and I wasn't making a whole lot of money, but I wasn't climbing ladders either. I was doing something different, and karma was clearing up, and things were getting better, and I was able to make some other choices. It was a period of trial and error. I thought, like I said, who am I becoming? I thought I was going to be the world famous drug and alcohol counselor, but the universe had other plans in store for me. And I learned so much. I learned so much in that job as a mental health worker about human behavior, how to help people and suicidal and depression and working with professional people and becoming a professional person. And this period of time is for you to do trial and error. I had a lot of jobs before I got to that position, that final position, where I went up there and I worked. And I don't like this. I don't like this job. This is not what I'm good at. And you found out what you're good at. What I found out I'm good at is I'm good with working with people. I got a pretty good head for science. And what's important to me is that I'm able to do something a little bit more with this life other than just bring home a paycheck. And that's came through from trial and error. You're allowed to make, fail. Failure is an integral part of success. Everybody who's successful has failure. That's part of it. In fact, you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. That's what makes me so smart. So eventually I got through that, and also that going to school for that first little degree, it taught me a lot. It taught me how to study. It taught me how to learn. I learned that I could learn. It taught me how to sit down and focus and study and pass tests and do conventional academic things. So those are the things that I did there in that midsection. Finally, closer to the end of that kind of what we're calling who am I becoming portion of transformation, I decided to go into nursing. And I went back and I started doing the prerequisites for nursing. The anatomy and microbiology and physiology, and there was a lot of trial and error there. And I'm telling you, I'm glad I had some type of higher power, because that's the only way I got through it. It's the only way I got through it. When I look back on it, I was so lucky. I had some help from the universe that helped guide me through it. I did the work without a doubt. I sat down, I studied, I focused, I did the work, and I finally got into the nursing program. But there was a lot of trial and error along the way. So that's kind of what I call mid recovery. Who am I becoming? Who do you want to become? Who's the person you've always wanted to be? This is your opportunity to do that. Now, you might be in a different position. You might be, maybe you're coming around this and you're a little older, and you're wrapping up your career, but you're changing. But who do you want to be? You could still change who you want to be, how you want to be remembered, how you want to be known. I used to, I never had a problem with people knowing I'm in recovery. They all knew when I wasn't. So if you're a little older how do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be known? How do you want to be remembered by your family, by your loved ones? This is that opportunity to start making those changes and becoming that person you've always wanted to be. So I think that's a good question. Let's move over to the tarot page. My ability to read tarot is a gift, an expression of divine love, but I'm here to share it with you in that same spirit. What have you thought about this so far?
Oh, far out, man.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but many times it's just a lot of pain.
The pain.
Because with pain comes some growth and growing pains. But you know what? None of it killed me. It all made me a better person. So, my question: what are the key points in this mid transformation period? What are the key points in this mid transformation period? That will be my question. I hope I don't draw similar cards. What are the key points in this mid transformation period? If you're going through transformation, the spiritual transformation, what are some of the key markers along the way? I just described the markers that were in my life, what happened to me. Something different probably will happen to you, but I think the process you'll definitely identify early, mid, and mature, and that's what I'm talking about here. So, what are the markers of mid transformation? What are the markers of mid transformation? What are some of the markers of mid transformation? Got 3 cards. All right, my first card, Queen of Wands. Second card, I'll throw some runes, the Hangman. Oh, that's very appropriate for this. And the third card, is the 9 of Swords. Actually, very appropriate too. Let's throw some runes on this as well. Queen of Wands. What are some of the markers of mid-transformation for the Queen of Wands? Algiz. Very appropriate rune. So the Queen of Wands. The Queen of Wands is this person that you've always wanted to be. She's this dynamic leader. And that's you. You want to be the dynamic leader. You want to be more dynamic in your own life. People will respect and look up to, and somebody who will help guide others. And that's this person, and it is mid-recovery. This is the person you've probably developed into by mid-recovery, by a mid-transformation, a person that people are starting to respect. And they don't know how you're doing it because you might be keeping all this to yourself. Anonymity, and you see the black cat. It has to do with occult. Occult means hidden. So you don't necessarily have to tell them the things that you are doing to manage your spiritual growth. That is very personal, and that is your business. And then the rune is Algiz. You're on a journey. You're on the hunt. That is the rune of the elk, the hunter. So you're on the hunt, and that in mid-transformation, you're on the hunt. But you have to remember your principles. You have to be careful, watch your step, and you'll be okay. Not to worry, because you're moving into unknown territory as you move into this part of your transformation. I like that term a lot better, transformation. And then for the Hangman, Let's throw a rune on it. That one is very appropriate for this period. And the rune is called Ingwaz again. Ingwaz. So the hangman. You're between this life, the new life, and the old life. You're hanging there in between. You're changing. How can I say this? You see he's hanging from one foot. It also is the card of like Odin, who hung from the tree of life and sacrificed his eye in order to gain wisdom. And that's the same type of thing the hangman does. He's hanging from the tree and he's making sacrifices in his life. Like I made sacrifices in my life. I said, I didn't focus on material things. I focused on education. And I had little jobs that I held it all together with, and it was a sacrifice, but it was a sacrifice that was worth it in the long run. And he hangs on that tree of life, and between the old life and the new life. And then the rune is Ingwaz. Ingwaz has to do with emerging from the chrysalis, the beginning of the beginning, or the end of the beginning. You're beginning to transform into the person that you've always wanted to be. When you were the Queen of Wands, now you're transforming as a result of your work. And then the final card is the Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords is the tarot card of stress, of anxiety. Will I be able to do this? Will I be able to pull this all together? Well, I just don't know. Can I do this? And you could do it. Let's throw one more rune on that. You could do it. The universe is very amenable to positive change and recovery. And in my experience, sometimes I didn't know where my next meal was coming from, but it always came. And that I always have had. The help came when I needed it most. And you always have, anxiety. How am I going to do this? Don't worry about how you're going to do it. Just do it. And the rune is the Raz. That's the rune of the threshold, of protection, of the thorn. So in mid-transformation, you're at the threshold. You're becoming that person you've always wanted to be. And you have that anxiety. Am I going to be able to do this? Am I not going to be able to do this? You can do it. You're at the threshold. You just need to step through the door, start taking the positive actions. I got some things going on now in my life where I'm at the threshold. I think I made the successful move from into what did I call it? I'm just working part-time now into a limited retirement, and I've got most of my things together, and I was at the threshold. But this threshold is that threshold, the threshold of a new life, of a new potentials, new opportunities, and you have anxiety over them, but you just need to step through the door. You're at the threshold in this mid-transformation process, and you will be all right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up for today.
Goodbye, Professor Marvel, and thanks a lot!
Well, it was my pleasure. I hope you're doing well out there. I hope everybody's fine. I hope to hear from you. I hope you send me a little email and tell me about your transformation and your journey, because human journeys are so fascinating, and one of the things I really love to hear about. So until next time, be careful, be cool, be kind, and remember, have courage, find faith, and I will see you again on the next podcast. Okay, bye-bye.